For someone who claims to love Fender as much as I do, why do I talk so much shit about them? And I am on the Great Strat Search. Today I'm going to be talking about an aspect of guitar playing that I think of as being an especially Fender thing. Indeed, it might actually be part of the Fender sound. What am I referring to? Fret buzz. Over the years, I've noticed something almost all Fenders I've played have in common. They buzz more. It's not endemic to Fender, and certainly it's a consideration on any guitar, but I do think Fenders are more prone to it than many of their competitors are. And I'm starting to wonder if that's a good thing. So hear me out. I'm going to take a somewhat ironic detour here and talk about the guitar that I'm playing today. This is not a Fender. This is actually a Partscaster, which was imagined and assembled by a guy local to me. You'll see his name there on the headstock, Robert Boyle. Though this guitar does not have the infamous F-bomb on the headstock, it's built with Fender licensed parts and it has all of the usual signature of their designs. Starting with the neck on this thing, you can see it's got the traditional Fender shaped headstock. It's kind of a fat C-shaped neck. It's not the fattest, but it's definitely thicker than any of the modern carves. It's got a 7.25 inch fretboard radius, and it's got the teeny tiny itty bitty little thin vintage frets on it, which I've actually been really enjoying. I've been enjoying them more than I thought I would. To round out the sexy factor, it's got these nice white button Kluson style tuners, and it's got the binding. It's got this nice fretboard binding, which Fender never did. This is also obviously a Strats style body here, and interesting, it's got the old style pickguard with the smaller number of screws. It came with the original Fender noiseless pickups in it, but I've since replaced them with some from a JV Stratocaster, and they sound killer. It's also a hardtail, which is something that I really love. I just really haven't been using the trem lately, and so that's a feature that I appreciate in particular. The color, I love the color. It's a nice vintage white. It's definitely kind of an off-white. It doesn't look as yellow to me as a lot of other vintage whites do, and I actually really like that. It's almost like a light coffee color. It's like if you put way too much cream in your coffee. So I really dig that. And then I also think that the builder did an amazing job of finding a pickguard which was kind of in the same color palette but a little bit darker. So I think this guitar has sex appeal up, down, and sideways, and let's be real, that's an important thing for us guitar players when we're picking an axe. This guitar, I jokingly started calling it Excalibur after I first got it. Partially it was because around the time I got it was when I realized that I was on the Great Strat Search. So in a sense, this guitar kind of represents the grail or the hunt for Excalibur that I was looking for. I'm not typically someone who names my guitars other than perhaps referring them to like the pink Strat, something like that. But this guitar's personality spoke to me more than most, and I think visually it inspired me as well. So hence, this guitar got the name Excalibur. Something I quickly noticed when playing this guitar, and I'd imagine it's now evident to you from watching the play video as well, is how much it buzzes. And I've had a strange relationship with it because it's not the horrible budget guitar, something is wrong with it buzz. It's not the like buzz that your friend's guitar has in high school, right? Someone who's never set up a guitar before, you're both totally new to the game and clueless about the whole thing. It's not that kind of buzz. It has more of what I would describe as like that musical buzz. It's a soulful buzz. It's a buzz that you've probably heard on some of your favorite recordings. It's a buzz that actually seems somehow to be, it's a buzz that somehow becomes intrinsically part of the music. And this is what I mean when I'm talking about, is this part of the Fender sound? Now, I think that there's a few reasons this is perhaps more associated with Fender guitars than other guitars, and I think some people would probably even take issue with me saying that it has anything to do with Fender. So if you're one of those people, by all means, drop a comment and let me know how wrong I am. There's a few things that I think bear mentioning. So the first is that because of its 25.5-inch scale length, Fender guitars, it's a longer scale length than most, maybe all of the other electric guitar competitors out there, outside of, you know, something special like a baritone or something like that. And as a result of this, when you have a longer string, you actually have a wider vibration, right? When you pluck the string, the longer the string is, the more prone it is to move from side to side. And so that's naturally going to give you a little bit more fret buzz. Another thing is that Fender guitars typically have a greater curvature on their fretboard, right? With the 725 or the 9.5 radius, it's a greater curvature than something you're going to see on, say, a typical Gibson guitar. And again, it's kind of well documented that this is more prone to give you setup issues. You might have to run your action a little bit higher to avoid buzz on a Fender instrument. You're also probably more likely to get some buzz or some choking or some kind of, you know, just soulful, scratchy sounding when you're doing a bend, for example, than you might on a flatter radius instrument. So I think that those are two aspects about your typical Fender design that I think kind of uncontroversially contribute to the prevalence of string buzz. But, you know, I'm not sure if that covers it. You know what I mean? I've played so many Fenders over the years, and I've started to wonder whether it's just kind of a part of the Fender thing, right? If you take a guitar, it's not just any one part of the guitar, it's the sum of its parts, right? And I just wonder if there's something about the Fender geometry, right? The combination of the scale length, the neck shape, the angle, right? It's not a set neck right? And so Fenders tend to have a flatter kind of pitch to the neck, right? That's going to affect how it plays. The headstock angle, the way the bridges are designed, right? All of these, the whole thing, it's like it's a whole system, right? It's a whole ecosystem of creating a sound and creating an instrument that plays a certain way. And I just have to wonder whether the choices that Fender has made and continued to make over the years have resulted in a guitar that just buzzes more. Now, something that's quite evident when you move guitar to guitar is how a certain instrument inspires you to play, how it makes you feel. And this is always a unique melange of maybe your influences, your associations with the instrument, your particular ongoing relationship with that instrument, how it sounds, how it plays, how it inspires you to play. And I think that this is one of the reasons why guitarists get so particular about the gear that they're using, about the guitars that they're playing, about the amps that they're playing through, about vintage stuff, about all of these different minute details of the finish and the tone wood and the particular configuration of certain years and whatnot. There's a whole bevy of reasons why people get into that and go down that particular rabbit hole. But what I'm getting at here is that things tend to go in cycles, right? If you pick up a Telecaster, say, and you start playing it, you can't remove yourself from this entire lifetime, conscious and unconscious, of all of the context that you've ever taken in around the Telecaster. Maybe all of the songs that you've heard a Telecaster play on that you didn't even know were Telecasters, right? But when you start to play it, it awakens something in you and you start to play a certain way. And you'll hear this consistently, from pro guitarists, legendary guitarists. They'll say, I picked up this certain guitar and it just made me want to play something, right? It made me want to play differently. It brought something out in me. And so I do wonder whether that's happening here as well, is that when you pick up a Stratocaster or a Telecaster or even a Jazzmaster or some of the less popular Fender designs, they're just kind of funneling you towards a certain style of play. I know that's true for myself. Lately I've started to get into a little bit more, just trying to play some jazzy stuff, maybe even doing a little bit of finger picking on my electric guitar, stuff like that. And I noticed that I naturally gravitate towards like my thin line telly to play stuff like that, because these humbuckers, they produce a different sound. It's a fatter sound, it's a warmer sound. The semi-hollow nature of the guitar, some think, contributes to that kind of woodier tone. And so I'm just inspired to play different things when I pick up this guitar because of the way it sounds and because of the way it plays. Now, it's the same when I pick up a Stratocaster, right? It's got these single coil pickups in it. It's got these particular configurations. It's got this particular sound to it. And it just excites me to play in certain ways. And, it evokes for me perhaps these kind of ancestral recallings of my guitar heroes, such as Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan, right, who had a tendency to really dig in and push the guitar. And what do you know, when you play the guitar harder and you play it in certain styles and you bend the notes a lot and stuff like that, you're gonna get more buzz. If you play higher up on the neck and you're starting to play a bunch of bluesy stuff, you're gonna get that particular kind of, I don't know, I think of it as kind of a round, it's like the sound becomes rounder, right? But it also starts to buzz more, and it kind of really contributes to that soulful sound of the guitar that I personally love. And so the interesting thing, though, is that it puts me on this tightrope, because sometimes I pick up the guitar and I start playing and the freaking string is buzzing and it drives me nuts. You know, maybe I'm just trying to play some simple stuff like this, you know, and then I'm starting to get all of this buzz higher on the neck, and it's really distracting me from what I'm trying to do, right? So I think a lot of it comes down to, what are you trying to play? How do you want to play? Is your guitar set up to play the way that you want it to? One of the kind of unconscious myths or biases that I'm trying to dispel on this current Strat search is trying to find the one guitar to do it all. This is such a common trap that we can fall into as guitarists. You know, we start reading these forums, we start going on these searches to find this mythical guitar that's going to solve all of our problems. And you know what? You're not going to find it. It's not realistic, right? We have to take each guitar as its own entity and ask, what does this guitar have to offer me? What can we do together? What kind of beautiful music can we make together? And so what I'm leaving this video with is this feeling of, I think when I was complaining about this guitar buzzing when I was first playing it, I think I was really missing what this guitar had to offer me. I was really missing the soul of this particular configuration of this guitar. And ever since I've allowed myself to relax and say, you know what, this is a buzzy guitar. This is a guitar, you know, it's gonna do that, right? It's gonna do that pretty much no matter what I do, especially, you know, I've been playing with thicker picks lately, right? And sometimes digging in. It's just gonna happen. And rather than trying to, you know, blow against the wind, as Paul Simon would say, I'm just starting to try to go with the flow and just enjoy this guitar for what it is and what it has to offer me. So thanks for joining me as I continue on this Great Strat search that I'm on. It's been a pleasure making these videos for you, and I love to see those comments. I love to see those likes. I love to see those subscribes. You can really get in on the ground floor with something here. I mean, how many times do you have an opportunity to do that? Anyway, it makes a world of difference to me. So thank you, and I will catch you on the next one.